Rapper Mystikal is like a magnet for legal trouble. He's back in the headlines again for allegedly sexually assaulting a woman.
The legendary rapper can't seem to stay out of trouble as he yet again found himself behind bars. Sadly, he still hasn't learned his lesson as he is back in jail a third time on similar charges, despite promising that he had grown up and changed.
I'm grown, the man grew some more.
It's sad that this is a person's third time.
The disturbing allegations leveled against him may see him get life in prison, which will send a message to criminals who just don't learn. So what exactly got Mystikal in his current predicament? Let's find out. Mystikal behind bars.
Developing in the last hour, rapper Mystikal will not be allowed out of jail after being arrested over the weekend. He was booked on rape, domestic abuse, and drug charges.
Mystikal, the New Orleans rapper, now finds himself at the center of a disturbing sexual assault case. Accused of rape, Mystikal allegedly took his alleged victim's ordeal to a horrifying level by forcing her to pray with him before the assault. This shocking revelation sent shockwaves through the music industry and left fans in disbelief. Prosecutors claim that Mystikal, who was reportedly under the influence of drugs at the time, believed that praying would rid the woman of bad spirits before the alleged rape occurred. As the details of this harrowing case continue to unfold, Mystikal's past criminal record, including a previous conviction for sexual battery, adds a troubling layer to the allegations. It all started on a fateful day at Mystikal's Prairieville home on July 30th, 2022. According to the unidentified woman, Mystikal accused her of stealing $100 from him, which triggered a violent outburst. Enraged, Mystikal physically attacked her, pulling out her braids and confiscating her keys and cell phone, effectively trapping her inside his home.
She said that he seemed fine when they were initially talking. At some point, he stepped away, maybe to the restroom. He came back a completely different person.
But the horror didn't stop there. The victim claims that Mystikal, allegedly high on drugs at the time, took the assault to a whole new level. He threw rubbing alcohol on her, causing excruciating pain before demanding that they pray together. Mystikal believed that this twisted act would cleanse the woman of any bad spirits before he proceeded with the alleged rape. The victim managed to escape from Mystikal's clutches and sought immediate medical attention at the Baton Rouge General Hospital. Her injuries were a chilling testament to the brutality she endured at the hands of the rapper. The physical and emotional scars she carries will forever remind her of that horrifying day. Mystikal's arrest on July 31st sent shockwaves through the music industry and his fan base. He was charged with first-degree rape, domestic abuse battery, strangulation, and robbery. Additionally, he faced charges of illegal possession of Xanax, heroin, methamphetamine, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia. These charges, coupled with his previous conviction for sexual battery in 2003, paint a disturbing picture of a man with a dark past. Mystikal, whose real name is Michael Lawrence Tyler, pleaded not guilty to all charges. His attorney vehemently denied the allegations, calling them bogus. Mystikal's defense claimed that the victim had asked him for $1,000, and when he refused, she threatened to accuse him of rape. The legal battle that lies ahead will determine the truth behind these shocking allegations. The potential consequences for Mystikal are dire. First-degree rape alone carries a potential life sentence in prison. The gravity of the charges, coupled with his previous conviction, increases the likelihood of a severe punishment if he is found guilty. Mystikal's future hangs in the balance as the legal proceedings unfold. Currently held without bond at Ascension Parish Jail, Mystikal awaits his day in court. The weight of the evidence, the credibility of the alleged victim's testimony, and the skill of the legal teams on both sides will determine the outcome of this high-profile case. The eyes of the public are fixed on the courtroom, waiting for justice to be served. However, Mystikal has recently made a bold move in his ongoing rape case by filing a motion for a gag order. This request, put forth by his defense attorney Tiffany Miles Crosby, seeks to safeguard Mystikal's privacy amidst an overwhelming amount of publicity surrounding the case. The motion, obtained from court documents by the advocate, sheds light on the reasons behind this extraordinary measure. In the motion, Crosby emphasizes the inordinate amount of publicity that has surrounded Mystikal's rape and false imprisonment case in Ascension Parish, Louisiana. The rapper's legal team argues that the extensive media coverage could potentially taint the jury pool and compromise the fairness of the trial. By imposing a gag order, Mystikal's defense aims to prevent attorneys from both sides, as well as potential witnesses and law enforcement officials, from making any comments to the media or any individual or entity. If approved, the gag order would effectively bar attorneys from discussing the case with media outlets such as radio, television, and newspapers. It would also extend its reach to encompass all potential witnesses and law enforcement officials who either will or might testify at the trial or possess information about the case. The objective is to create an environment where the legal proceedings can unfold without undue influence or bias from external sources. The implications of a gag order in a high-profile case like Mystikal's are significant. It not only protects the defendant's right to a fair trial, but also ensures that the jury can make their decision based solely on the evidence presented in court. By limiting the dissemination of information and opinions about the case, a gag order aims to prevent the potential contamination of the jury's perception and maintain the integrity of the legal process. However, the imposition of a gag order is not without controversy. Critics argue that it infringes upon the principles of free speech and transparency, which are fundamental to a democratic society. They contend that the public has a right to access information about cases of public interest, and that a gag order may hinder the public's ability to hold the justice system accountable. The decision on whether to grant the gag order now lay in the hands of the Louisiana judge, Judge Stephen Turow of the 23rd Judicial District Court, who is presiding over Mystikal's case. The judge carefully considered the arguments put forth by both the defense and the prosecution, weighed the potential benefits of protecting Mystikal's privacy against the potential drawbacks of limiting public discourse, and granted the gag order, barring attorneys and others connected to the case from commenting to the news media. Well, this is definitely not the rapper's first time behind bars. It all started on a fateful day in July 2002 when Mystikal found himself entangled in a web of allegations that would forever change his life. The rapper, known for his energetic performances and chart-topping hits, was accused of a heinous crime that shocked the music industry and his fans alike. Mystikal, along with 2 bodyguards, was charged with aggravated rape and extortion after a horrifying incident involving his former hairstylist. The victim claimed that Mystikal and his associates forced her to perform oral sex, all while accusing her of stealing a staggering $80,000 from the rapper's bank account. However, she vehemently denied any involvement in the alleged theft. The charges against Mystikal were severe, as aggravated rape carries a mandatory sentence of life without probation in the state of Louisiana. The gravity of the situation was further intensified when the police discovered a videotape of the assault. This shocking piece of evidence would play a crucial role in the legal proceedings that followed. As the case unfolded, Mystikal's lawyer, J. David Borland, engaged in numerous meetings with the state prosecutor in an attempt to negotiate a plea deal. After careful deliberation, the charges were eventually reduced to sexual battery in exchange for Mystikal's guilty plea. This decision marked a turning point in the legal battle, as it allowed Mystikal to avoid the possibility of facing a lifetime behind bars. However, the case took an unexpected twist when Mystikal's lawyer filed a motion to withdraw his client's guilty plea. The defense team had learned that the prosecution had provided Judge Anthony Marabella with the videotape of the sexual assault. This revelation led to a dispute between the defense and the prosecution, as the defense believed that the tape would remain sealed and not be used as evidence in the case. The defense argued that there may have been a misunderstanding, as they were under the impression that the tape would be held confidential forever. Speaking to the press, Borland said, "I cannot say in good faith the state deceived us, but there may have been a misunderstanding. They said they were not going to use the tape to increase the sentence, and we took that to mean the tape would be held confidential forever. The state did not bring the tape up to the judge. He asked to see the tape before sentencing. However, when Judge Marabella expressed his desire to view the tape before sentencing, the prosecution handed it over." This turn of events left Mystikal's defense team in a difficult position, as they contemplated the potential consequences of withdrawing the guilty plea. Ultimately, Mystikal's defense team decided against withdrawing the guilty plea, fearing that the charges against their client would be escalated back to aggravated rape. Judge Marabella, who read Mystikal's sentence with disdain, expressed his belief that the rapper considered himself above the law and capable of taking matters into his own hands. The judge made it clear that Mystikal had received a significant break when the district attorney reduced the charges, emphasizing the role of the victim's agreement to lesser charges in securing the final sentence. The court is convinced that the defendant believes he is above the law and can take the law into his own hands. "You received a significant break when the district attorney reduced the charges. If it weren't for the victim agreeing to lesser charges in exchange for a guilty plea, the sentence would have been the maximum 10 years, the judge said in court as he sentenced the rapper to 6 years behind bars. Following his sentencing, Mystikal's legal team and the prosecuting attorney expressed their satisfaction with the outcome. Mystikal's lawyer, J. David Borland, believed that accepting the plea deal and avoiding the presentation of the inflammatory videotape during trial was a strategic move to protect his client's interests. Prosecuting attorney Sue Birney, on the other hand, was content with the decision, as it allowed them to secure justice for the victim while preserving her dignity. As part of his sentence, Mystikal was required to register as a sex offender in the state of Louisiana. This registration would have long-lasting implications for his personal and professional life. It would restrict his ability to live in certain areas, limit his employment opportunities, and subject him to ongoing monitoring and reporting requirements. In addition to the registration as a sex offender, Mystikal would also face 5 years of probation for the charge of extortion. This probation period came with a set of strict conditions that Mystikal was forced to adhere to upon his release from prison. He was required to pay a monthly fee to the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Division of Probation and Parole, to cover the costs of supervision. Mystikal was also to remain employed, undergo substance abuse evaluation and treatment, stay alcohol and drug-free, and submit to random urinalysis at his own expense. Furthermore, Mystikal was prohibited from having any contact with the victim or her family. This no-contact order aimed to ensure the victim's safety and prevent any potential harassment or intimidation. Violation of any of these probation terms could result in Mystikal being sent back to prison for up to 10 more years. Mystikal's 2 bodyguards, Leland Pokey Ellis and Versi V. Carter, who were also involved in the assault, pleaded guilty to sexual battery. Ellis received a 3-year prison sentence, while Carter was sentenced to 4 years. Their convictions serve as a reminder that all individuals involved in the crime are being held accountable for their actions. It is important to note that Mystikal's legal troubles extended beyond the criminal justice system. In order to prevent the victim from filing a civil suit against him, Mystikal settled with her for around $300,000, which he borrowed from his label. This financial settlement, along with his guilty plea, is an attempt to make amends for the distress he caused. Unfortunately, his run-ins with the law would continue even with him behind bars. Mystikal's turbulent career. In August 2005, while incarcerated on the state sexual battery and extortion charges, Mystikal was charged federally with 2 misdemeanor counts of failing to file tax returns for 1998 and 1999. On January 12, 2006, he was convicted in federal court of the tax offenses, but was allowed to serve the 1-year federal sentence concurrent with his 6-year state sentence. Mystikal was incarcerated at Louisiana's Elaine Hunt Correctional Center. On January 19, 2006, Mystikal was denied parole at a parole board hearing. On January 11, 2007, Mystikal was released from custody on the federal misdemeanor tax convictions as his 1-year sentence had expired, but he remained in custody on the 6-year sentence for the Louisiana state felony convictions. Although he was released January 14, 2010, he couldn't stay out of trouble as he was back behind bars for a probation violation. After signing a new deal with Cash Money Records for his highly anticipated album Original, Mystikal's plans were abruptly halted due to a probation violation. The 41-year-old artist was sentenced to 3 months in jail for his transgression. This was a devastating blow to Mystikal's career, as he was poised to make a triumphant return to the music scene. On that fateful day in February, Mystikal's life took a drastic turn. He was arrested and charged with a misdemeanor for domestic abuse battery, a violation of his 5-year probation. This probation stemmed from previous charges of sexual battery and extortion that had led to his imprisonment from 2004 to 2010. The Louisiana State District Judge Tony Marabella wasted no time in delivering his verdict. Mystikal was sentenced to 3 months in jail for his probation violation. This news sent shockwaves through the music industry and left fans wondering what would become of the highly anticipated album Original. However, amidst the chaos, Cash Money CEO Birdman stepped forward to address the situation. In a statement to MTV News, Birdman's spokesperson confirmed that the label would continue to support Mystikal's career, emphasizing that the arrest would not affect their relationship. This unwavering support from Cash Money Records offered a glimmer of hope for Mystikal's future. He began serving his sentence on May 14th at the East Baton Rouge Parish Jail. During his incarceration, he appeared in court to be heard on the domestic battery charges, as well as for a hearing to determine child support payments for his 2 youngest children. The rapper was eventually released from jail in August 2012. However, he would soon find himself in yet another legal battle.
Mystikal has now been indicted, and that is for charges of rape and kidnapping.
Come on now, Mystikal. That's your second one in your life, bruh.
His bond is set at $3 million.
On the night of October 22nd, 2016, a horrifying incident unfolded in downtown Shreveport that would later lead to the arrest of 2 individuals. Mystikal and his associate, Ava Weon Holman, were charged with 1 count of first-degree rape each in connection to this shocking event. According to reports, a woman was subjected to a heinous act of sexual assault on that fateful night. As the investigation progressed, the evidence began to point towards Mystikal and Holman as the primary suspects. The police obtained warrants for their arrest, charging them with first-degree rape. The gravity of the charges couldn't be understated, as first-degree rape is a serious offense that carries severe legal consequences.
Mystikal has turned himself in yesterday. There was an arrest warrant out for him from last week, and they finally got him to turn himself in, and he has been arrested and booked for first-degree rape.
In a surprising turn of events, Mystikal, aware of the warrant for his arrest, made the decision to surrender himself to the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Department. This act of surrender demonstrated a willingness to face the allegations head-on, although Mystikal's camp vehemently denied the charges, claiming that they were fabricated. Mystikal pleaded not guilty guilty and put his fate in the hands of the justice system. While Mystikal turned himself in, Averwu and Holman's arrest was carried out by the U.S. Marshals in Killeen, Texas. The search for Holman came to an end on August 18th when he was apprehended and taken into custody. The arrest of both Mystikal and Holman sent shockwaves through the music industry and the community, tarnishing the reputation of the once celebrated rapper and raising questions about the company he kept. As the legal proceedings unfolded, the evidence seemed to be stacked against Mystikal. The alleged victim claimed that she had been sexually assaulted by him during their time at the Louisiana casino. The details of the incident were disturbing, and the case garnered widespread attention. However, in a shocking turn of events, the charges against Mystikal were ultimately dismissed due to a lack of evidence. The Caddo Parish Grand Jury, after careful consideration, decided to drop the charges against the rapper. This decision came as a surprise to many, as the initial allegations had seemed substantial.
Meanwhile, charges are dropped against Louisiana rapper Mystikal.
The district attorney's office released a statement explaining that additional evidence and information had come to light, leading to the case being resubmitted to a second grand jury. The pursuit of justice and the interest of fairness were at the forefront of their decision-making process. Based on the grand jury's decision, the charges pending against Mystikal were dismissed. Attorney Joel Peace, who represented Mystikal throughout the legal proceedings, shed some light on the dismissal. He revealed that new scientific evidence had emerged, causing the second grand jury to take a second look at the rape allegations made against his client. This evidence played a crucial role in the ultimate decision to drop the charges. The dismissal of the charges came as a relief to Mystikal and his legal team. After spending 18 months in prison, the rapper was finally able to post a $3 million bond in February. The uncertainty surrounding the case had taken a toll on his career and personal life. Mystikal had maintained his innocence from the beginning, and the dismissal of the charges validated his claims. The dismissal, however, did not come without its fair share of controversy. Some questioned the credibility of the alleged victim and the handling of the case. Mystikal's lawyers firmly believed that the alleged victim was not credible, and they were prepared to take their chances in court. They wanted to fight the charges head-on and prove Mystikal's innocence. After spending more than 4 years under the cloud of rape and kidnapping charges, Mystikal revealed that he was ready to leave the past behind and embark on a new chapter in his life and career. In an interview with the Associated Press, the Louisiana hip-hop legend opened up about his reflections on the case and his plans for the future. Mystikal admitted that looking back at his music, he realizes that he was a nasty lil rapper. With a hint of embarrassment, he acknowledged the sexually charged nature of his past songs. However, he now envisioned himself rapping his music to God, and if he could do that, he would feel a sense of pride. This shift in perspective reflected his desire for personal growth and a higher audience. The dismissal of the rape charges against Mystikal had given him a renewed sense of purpose. He wanted to make changes to his career and shed the sexually explicit image that defined his earlier work. While he acknowledged that he couldn't completely distance himself from his past, he didn't plan on venturing into the gospel charts either. Mystikal aimed to strike a balance between his artistic expression and his spiritual growth. Within days of the charges being dropped, Mystikal received an unexpected boost in his career. Film trailers for Eddie Murphy's highly anticipated Coming to America began airing, featuring Mystikal's 2015 smash hit with Mark Ronson, Feel Right. The rapper was taken by surprise, but he saw it as a sign from a higher power. Mystikal believed that these opportunities would strengthen his spirituality and affirm his path forward. The impact of the case on Mystikal's career couldn't be understated. The uncertainty surrounding the charges and the seriousness of the allegations led to a decline in bookings and limited opportunities. However, with the dismissal of the charges, Mystikal was once again optimistic about the future. Bookings for live performances started picking back up, and he was set to be featured on TV One's popular music docuseries, Unsung, where his life story will be told. Mystikal acknowledged that he had learned from his past mistakes, and the lessons extended beyond music. Suggestions were even made for him to have women he's involved with sign non-disclosure agreements, which Mystikal declined. According to the rapper, he understood the need to avoid situations where things like that could happen and had no interest in engaging with groupies or taking advantage of his celebrity status. As he looked to the future, Mystikal planned to start working on a live instrumentation project. This new endeavor would allow him to explore different musical styles and showcase his growth as an artist. He hoped to rebuild his career and regain the trust of his fans, who had continued to support him throughout the legal battle. However, that was not to be, as he was soon back in handcuffs.
51-year-old Michael Tyler, also known as Mystikal, was arrested on multiple charges, including first-degree rape and domestic abuse battery. Detectives interviewed a victim at a hospital who sustained injuries. The investigation led to Tyler being identified as a suspect.
This reignited the flames of controversy and raised questions about his troubled past. These shocking allegations left fans and critics stunned, wondering how someone with such a troubled history, one involving his beloved sister, would end up not protecting women, but being the cause of their trouble. Perhaps it was all a cry for help from what happened in the past, involving his sister Michelle Tyler, who he found dead inside her home. She had been brutally stabbed and strangled. The prime suspect in her murder was her boyfriend, Damian Neville, the grandson of one of the famed Neville brothers. He was arrested and charged for the crime. However, at trial, Neville was found not guilty. The death of Michelle Tyler left the rapper and his family shattered. The aftermath of Michelle's murder was a scene of devastation and despair. Mystikal, who had been away at the time, returned home to find his sister's lifeless body. While in an interview with Vlad TV, Mystikal talked about the harrowing incident. He recalled, "I found her. Thank God it was me and not my little brother, not my mom or somebody like that. I found my sister in her bed dead with a Mystikal promotion t-shirt on saying, 'I'm not that nigga' on it, man, on my birthday." She had just signed with Big Boy Records too. She was signed as an R&B act, and I was signed as a rapper. It was my first single, Not That Nigga, and she was singing, 'I'm not that nigga.' That's how that went down. I found that girl like that, man." The sight was enough to shatter his world and leave an indelible mark on his soul. The pain and anguish he felt were immeasurable, and the questions surrounding his sister's death would haunt him for years to come. Music became Mystikal's refuge, his solace in the face of unimaginable tragedy. He poured his heart and soul into his art as his true calling remained in music. "I just took refuge in my music after that," he added. When asked if he believed that Neville was the killer, Mystikal reiterated that Neville admitted to the crime. "I know he did it. Absolutely. I know he did it." The pain in Mystikal's past is one that shows dark times that lead to lifelong trauma. Maybe this horrifying experience shaped his interactions with women. We may never know. All we can do is wait and see how his case turns out.